Hey, this is Tyler with TJack Survival. I have a Hill People gear bag that I made a holster for. It's a Kydex holster. It's kind of a home do-it-yourself type of kit. So stay tuned and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so with this Hill People gear bag, it has Velcro running down the inside of it. The way that you open it, there's a couple different ways. The way that I like is to bring my elbow up so that I'm not flagging my arm. Pull it down like that and give me access to it. And then I can pull my pistol out and then just punch forward, right? Now this pistol is unloaded, not chambered, so you all don't freak out on me. But basically inside of this, there's a strip of Velcro, and I have made this little holster. I made this a really small, thin type of Kydex, which was hanging up on my breech right here. So that's why I removed that chunk with the Dremel. It's not aesthetic, but I don't care because it works really well. So when we did this, I basically folded it over. I've added some Velcro. I have a piece of 550 cord there attached to the loop in the bottom of the Hill People gear bag, because if it comes out of the Velcro, then the sheath will guaranteed come off. You just have to draw it back further. So that's basically how it works. When you go to draw it out, pops out, goes right back in, really simple. Covers up the trigger, so it's a safe way to do this. That's probably the most important part of any holster, is it covers up your trigger, especially with guns like a Glock that don't have additional unnecessary safeties. So, like I say, this functions really well. As I pull it out, put it back. You don't need a holster for these. They're designed to just drop the pistol in it. I can't handle not covering up the trigger. It drives me nuts. So I made a holster for it to cover up the trigger. Just in case it does fail, I'm going to purposely induce a failure. If it rips loose with the Velcro, it's still going to pull out. Okay, that's what that extra little piece of string is for. You just got to draw it out further before you punch forward. I obviously will shrink this 550 cord down so that it doesn't pull so far, but you get the idea. So there's only a few things that you need to actually make this holster, some Kydex and basic setup. First thing you need to do is turn your oven on. Hit broil, make sure that it's on high. Broil is just heat coming from the top as opposed to the bottom. Also, if you have a grate inside of your oven, be sure to pull it out and move it all the way to the top. That gives your cookie sheet a closer exposure to the heat. Obviously, you're going to need a cookie sheet, so be sure to grab yourself a good cookie sheet and grab your Kydex. Then I like to measure the Kydex before I put on the cookie sheet so that I'm not using excessive Kydex. I also, before you get going too far, you need to make sure that you have a piece of wood on the front sight and the back sight. That way when you draw your weapon out, the front sight's not going to snag up on the Kydex as you pull it back. I used chopsticks. Chopsticks are awesome. So basically I scored it and cut a little piece of the chopstick off. Then I use the painter's tape. Painter's tape, unlike duct tape, is not going to stick to your weapon and leave a mess when you're done. So I used a little blue frog or blue painter's tape. I put a piece of tape on the front, and then I try to tape it down to the chopstick first, and then tape it to the side of the gun. That way it just seated a little bit more and it doesn't slide. And then of course I taped the back. That way when you drop it in the Kydex, it's not going to shift around and mess anything up. That creates a little channel again for your front sight to slide back. Panda Express, yeah, that's the only way to go. Okay, so you prep your Kydex press before you're going to go ahead and bring everything out, because it's once you bring it out, it's hot. So I like to shift everything around, and I also use a washcloth between my Kydex press and my gun because it's going to be hot. Now, because it's hot, you need some gloves. I love mechanics gloves because they handle the heat and they don't, that can still feel what's going on with them. Now with Kydex, it's incredibly important not to catch it on fire. It's very dangerous. So I turn the light on, watch it, check it a couple different times, and as soon as it starts to warp or bubble, and again, sometimes I need to flip it upside down. So basically what I will do is turn it upside down. And a quick note, make sure your cookie sheet's cold before you start. If you put it in there on a hot cookie sheet, like if it's been in the oven the whole time, you drop your Kydex on it, it's just going to start burning. And that is very, very dangerous. So once it starts to bubble up, it starts to warp just a little bit, you can tell it's kind of like a jelly. You pull it out of the oven real quick, and if you staged your stuff correctly, it shouldn't be too much of a transition. You'll drop your pistol on there. Remember, a little more extra coverage is better than not enough, because you're just going to cut the excess off with your saw. So I add a little bit of extra coverage. I get it good and snug against the top so that it's going to create a good channel for that front sight. Drop a little cloth on top of it and then lock it down. I have a chain for this, but because it's mobile, my Kydex press is mobile, I just put a I put a kettlebell on top of it and let the kettlebell hold it down. Excuse me. So you just hold it down until it's warm, or until it's cooled off. Now, once it's cooled off, you'll detach your Kydex press, pull the gun out, and if you do it too soon, it won't solidify. But if you've waited long enough for it to cool off, usually takes a couple minutes, you can tell that it'll be nice and solid, and look like our favorite man, Han Solo from Star Wars. All right, so in this scene you can see the chopstick right there. It's created a nice channel, and then before I pull the pistol out, what I will do is I will write on it with a pencil where I want to cut. And the good thing about a pencil is if you screw it up, you can do it again. Just hit it with an eraser and decide where you want. You can run to the end of the gun. You can run halfway up. It all depends on what you want your holster to look like when you get done. Another thing to remember is the Kydex is going to grip the gun in two places. It's going to grip it on the trigger, and it's going to grip it on the ejection port right there. So be sure to realize that that's going to adjust the tension. So once you've written on it, you take it to the bandsaw, chop off all of that excess stuff. I like to be really, really careful here so that I get an exact cut on top and bottom, so that it looks the same on both sides. And a bandsaw, if you don't have one, it's great, but if you don't have one, a hacksaw will work. Now once you've done that, you're going to have a rough edge, so I will take it and run it on a very coarse sander and then a very fine sander. The fine sander just kind of gets rid of all those little burrs, and as you do this, it's going to build up a little bit of a it's just a wave that hangs out the other side of the Kydex. You can brush it off, but I use my knife. Then when you're done and you've got it all cut out, you need to hit it with the drill. Once you've hit it with the drill, then you're going to put your grommets on it. The closer you go to the trigger, the more tension there's going to be. And the little thing that I like to use is called a Chicago screw with the grommet, and that little rubber washer or that grommet, and it's actually a rubber washer, gives me tension. Once you're done with that, you're basically going to measure your I want to call it hook pile tape. You're going to measure your Velcro and then cut it. And once you've cut it, you want to start on one side and press it just like a sticker so that you don't have bubbles all the way up and over and down the other side. That way you ensure that that Velcro is solid. I have some industrial strength Velcro I brought back from a deployment, and that stuff works really, really well. All right, that has been a quick video on how to make a nice Kydex holster for your pistol. If this was valuable to you, please comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching TJack Survival.